Hi everybody, welcome to our channel. I hope you guys are having a really great week. Today we're going to make a really fun fall DIY using mostly items from Dollar Tree. So let's go over the supplies. We're going to use one of these 3D wood pumpkins, a cookie sheet, a disposable one from Dollar Tree, one of their stretched canvas signs, the rectangular ones, some ribbon, really any ribbon of your choice. You'll need 2 of these battery operated candles, some greenery. I'm going to use this lamb's ear from Walmart. We're also going to use some white paint, some moss green. I'm going to use this dark gray, black. I'm also going to use this light blue, light mocha, and a granite gray. We're also going to use a little bit of the Spanish moss from Dollar Tree, one of their 4 packs of the miniature white pumpkins, and their berry vines here. I'm going to use white ones. We're going to use some wood grain contact paper, some of these tumbling tower blocks, and then from Hobby Lobby some of their scrapbooking paper. So I chose to use the blue and brown paisley. It's 25 cents a sheet, and 4 of the chip decor letters from Hobby Lobby as well, and a few different fall flowers. Really any one of your choice will do. You'll need a pencil, some paper. You're also going to need some hot glue, and then Mod Podge and a sponge brush. You'll need a little bit of this Fix-All adhesive from Dollar Tree, a pair of scissors, some paint brushes, and a craft stick to help with the glue. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to make is the pumpkin. So taking our pumpkin, I cut the tag off and took off the little raffia bow at the top. Just lay your paper on top there and rub on top of it, and you'll get an imprint of the grooves of the pumpkin here. Then just take your pencil and trace around those lines to create sort of like a stencil for yourself that we'll use to cut out the cookie sheet. So once we have that all done, you're just going to cut around it with your scissors to get the excess paper out of the way, and then position this on top of your cookie sheet where you will want to use this at, and then just push down kind of hard with your pencil. You don't want to tear the paper, but you want to push hard enough that you can see these grooves or outline of the pumpkin on the cookie sheet. So once that's all done, I actually traced over it with a Sharpie just so you guys would be able to see it a little bit better. I wasn't sure how the camera was picking that up. So then I just cut around that with my scissors because it was easier to manipulate and cut out without all that excess cookie sheet on there. So then you just want to cut those pieces out and then set those aside because we're going to actually paint the pumpkin first. So just using that moss green paint that I picked up at Walmart by the Waverly brand, I decided to go ahead and just paint the whole back of this pumpkin with this green color. And then once that was done, I took the apple barrel paint in that light mocha and just put on a tiny little bit of paint, pretty much just like dry brushing some little details around the pieces of the pumpkin here. Then I wasn't sure if I'd be able to see any of this wood here when I glue on those faux metal pieces, so I did paint those edges with the dark gray paint. So once that was pretty much dry, just use a little bit of chalk paint. I put just a little dot of water in it to water it down a little bit, and then I put these little detail lines on the background here of the pumpkin. So you just really just do like a little dot, a little squiggly, and then another dot. You just space those out down around the pumpkin. You can leave those off. It's really up to you. This project's yours, so just make it your own. Any color paint will do for this. Any color flowers, just really make it your own. It's just a suggestion what I do here. So then using the Fix-All adhesive and my craft stick, I just spread that glue around. I want to make sure I get a lot of glue on the edges there. It'll help hold this better over time, and I did use a little bit of hot glue to help attach these to the pumpkin. And like I said, the stencil wasn't perfect, so you were able to see a little bit of the edges of these 3D pieces here. So I was really glad that I had painted the edges with the dark gray paint. It helped it to blend in, as you can see here. So that is most of it done. We just have a little bit more detail to add here. So I took a few of these little leaves from the lamb's ear that I had cut off, and used some hot glue to attach that to the side there. I did decide to go ahead and just reattach the raffia bow. It was really cute. I liked it a lot, so I thought that would look really nice at the top. So I went ahead and attached that to kind of cover that little stem of the lamb's ear that I had cut off. And then I just used my craft stick to twist these berries up around to create almost like a vine. And I used 2 small pieces of this, and I glued that to the bottom and the top underneath of the raffia bow here. Like I said, just to give it a little bit more detail, add some little vines here to the pumpkin. Really, any color of these berries will do. If you don't have the berries, like I said, you don't have to put those on. You could use some different fall leaves, some flowers, really anything that you can think of would look really pretty here. So that is our pumpkin finished. So now that that's done, we're going to set that aside and work on the letters. So I took the letter A, and that is going to be the focal point here with the paisley scrapbooking paper, and then the rest of the letters I just traced and cut out from that cookie sheet that I had left over. Then I did attach all of that with the Fix All adhesive. I made sure I really spread that glue out to the edges there to make sure that this was going to hold down. I didn't use any hot glue here. I did just use the Fix All adhesive here, and I did choose to paint the letters, the edges, and the back. You don't have to paint those, but that's where those other paint colors come in, and it would be easier if you paint these before you attach the scrapbooking paper and things to that. So I attached the scrapbooking paper, as you can see here. I did put a layer of Mod Podge over that to seal it in, and then like I said, I painted the edges and the back of these letters. It's easier to paint it first though. Don't do as I did. Do it the other way. So then for the candles, I just used some of this contact paper that I had in the wood grain. I just measured that out from the top edge of the candle down to the bottom, but I made sure I didn't put it over where the little piece screws onto the bottom to hold the battery door on. And then I just wrapped that around very slowly, peeling off the paper to give it a wood grain look here to the candles. Now you can just paint the candles if you want to. You don't have to wrap them in wood grain. Paint sticks to these fairly well, but I just wanted to use the wood grain. I thought it would look nice. And then for the ribbon that I chose to use, I ended up using this lace ribbon from Dollar Tree. Just made a very simple little bow. So for the bottom here, as you can see, I just folded over to create the little tails of the bow. I did cut the little dovetail there at the bottom. And then for the top part of the bow, I just made a loop and tied the bow right in the center to make the loop. And then I glued the bottom of the bow on with some hot glue, and then added some hot glue to the top there, and then glued the little top of the bow on those. And I just did the exact same thing for both candles. I do want to mention, when you put this all together here at the end, you want to make sure that before you put your candle into the base, that the bow will be facing outwards. So if you want, you could actually put the bow on at the very end. So for the box here, I'm just going to go ahead and paint it over with some black paint. Now you don't even have to paint this if you don't want to. You're probably not going to see inside of this box if you do it exactly the same way I did, but I chose to paint mine just in case. I like to have a nice finished look to my projects. I even covered up the words on the bottom of the box, even though we'll never see it. I just chose to do that, and now we're going to put it all together. So taking our tower blocks, we're actually going to glue 3 high, and then we're going to make them 2 wide. So you're going to use 6 blocks in all, and then you want to make sure that you have those about 1/2 inch to 1 inch away from the sides. And this is going to create our little base for our candle holders that hold, the base that holds the candle, and that is so that they will sit up high enough that you'll be able to see them between all the moss and things like that. Most of the box would have ended up covering the candle because they're not very tall. But as you can see, I did the 2 wide, 3 high, so it was 6 blocks in all. I glued the little base on there, and then the candles will go in there at the end. So then just taking some hot glue, you're going to just put hot glue right at the bottom of the pumpkin here. You can use the Fix All adhesive here as well. And then you're going to center that right in between those tower blocks that you just created for the candles, and then just push that right up against the back of the box on the inside, as you can see here. And you just want to hold that in place until it dries to make sure it doesn't tip over. So this is what it should look like so far. So now we're going to add some more of the hot glue and some Fix All adhesive, and then just start stuffing that with your Spanish moss. Now just a tip, if you use a really strong hairspray, like a freeze spray, it'll help to keep your moss from shedding. So then making sure that my bow was going to be on the outside, facing the front, then I went ahead and put some hot glue in there. And now to turn it off, I just turn the candle a little bit, it turns off, and then when I want to turn them back on, I just turn it back. The bow's in the front, and that's what it looks like. So you do want to make sure again that that bow is going to be to the front if you put a bow on your candle. So then before I glued these letters to the front of the box, I did space them out and kind of just like laid them up against the box, kind of leaning, I guess you could say. And then that was to space those out to make sure that I had those where they want. They don't fit perfectly on front of the box. They do hang over that front edge just a hair on either side. And then, you know, you just want to have like a tiny little space between each letter. Once that was done, I took a little bit of those white berries. I wrapped that around the letter F. I didn't use any glue or anything. I just wrapped it around there. It is a wire, so it sticks pretty well. I used some lamb's ear and just kind of put that a little bit in the box, hanging over the edges and things, and then put some hot glue on the edges of those, the little stems of the pumpkins, and place those where I wanted. I did use all 4 of those pumpkins. You can kind of manipulate those a little bit so they face the direction that you want those to be. And then I did take some of those little flowers that I got in the white and the green, and I actually just cut those apart and spaced those out and put those a little bit down inside of the whole box there. And that is the whole thing. I did actually put a little bit on the top of the pumpkin too to hide that little hole that the tag was in. And that is all of it. I just love how it turned out. That scrapbooking paper was kind of my inspiration for the colors here. I love that blue with the brown, and then it had a little bit of a hint of green in it as well. And since that's a really popular kind of motif going on for fall this year, I thought this would be a great way to display those colors on our fall decor. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And here are some other videos from our channel that you might also enjoy if you enjoyed this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great night.